Welcome to the Pucks with Haggs podcast, a proud member of the CLNS Media Network, with this show brought to you by PrizePicks, the largest daily fantasy sports platform in North America. Download the PrizePicks app today and use the code CLNS and get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's code CLNS on PrizePicks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. PrizePicks, run your game. All right. Welcome in. This is the 197th episode of the Pucks with Haggs podcast. I have with me today longtime friend and colleague Mick Colageo. Mick, please tell everybody where they can find your work.
Go on X at Mick Colageo, as you see it spelled onto the bottom of my screen there, and you'll find my rink wrap reaction to the Marco Sturm presser, and of course distracted and delving into these turns into far-reaching places, and we'll feel like, wow, we got lost. We should have brought lunch. So that's how I write these days, with no editors to answer to.
Yes, the wild left-handed turns into the woods, Mick, are one of my favorite things. You know, the meandering, like all of a sudden we're going to go in this direction. I like that. It's
like a late-night Uber pickup when the road gets skinnier and skinnier and then turns to dirt, and then it gets very lumpy with giant puddles.
The digressions are perfect. We love that. We love a nice scenic drive with some turns, unexpected turns along the way. And I also have a reaction to the Marco Sturm hiring over at bostonsportsjournal.com. I am your host, Joe Haggerty. You can find my work at joehaggerty.substack.com. Subscribe and get yourself a premium membership. Get all of my Bruins and NHL writing sent straight directly to your inbox. I also write columns 3 times a week for the Boston Sports Journal. The latest one is about the Marco Sturm presser / introduction to the Bruins media yesterday in the spiffy Bruins front office executive tower room, which that was the first time we'd been in there. That was pretty impressive. But go to bostonsportsjournal.com and get yourself a subscription there as well to check out my work there, as long as other great work with guys like Greg Bedard, Mike Giardi, and a cast of thousands covering the Boston sports scene. It's a fantastic website, so get your subscription there. For those of you listening to this episode of the Pucks with Haggs podcast, we ask that you subscribe to the podcast, like, and leave a review. And for those watching the show on CLNS and enjoying all this hockey talk, go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe to the Bruins Rinkside YouTube channel, where you can find our show and a lot of other great Bruins content with fellow Bruins talkers like Conor Ryan and Evan Marinofski. There's also the CLNS Media Network and Patriots Press Pass YouTube channels as well. And also, please make sure to turn on your notifications so you know the very instant a new Pucks with Haggs podcast video has dropped on the interwebs. Mick, did you have something to say about the beautiful front office tower locale of the press conference yesterday?
Yeah, I withdraw my comment. I was like, wait, you said we. I had actually been there once before, but you were speaking about the media gathering. That's what you meant.
Yes.
And that was the first time we, as the Bruins horde of media, had gathered at this location. I think they should have just done away with that collapsible Bruins thing so that everybody watching could have just looked out on the financial district. You're basically looking down at the Haymarket from there, head point south from that. And Charlie Jacobs' office, by the way, is on that 14th floor of the Verizon Tower that squeezes between TD Garden and Causeway Street, taking up an edge of the space that used to be occupied by the old Garden. He has the corner office just to our left as we're facing the Haymarket. So he looks out at Logan when he looks left, and he looks in the same direction that we were looking as well. That's his right around that corner. If you got to the miniature Stanley Cups and took a hard left, then a right, you'd be at his office.
That's pretty cool. Definitely a nice set of digs for the Bruins front office up there. Beautiful view of the city. Great setting for as a place to introduce Marco Sturm as the 30th coach of the Boston Bruins. And, you know, just in general, Mick, I thought he came off really well yesterday. I don't think they were going to get too many instances where he's going to be up there for 35 minutes or more, answering questions, and some of them repetitive questions where it was kind of the same thing over and over again. But then I also saw he went on with Felger and Maz for 2 segments, and good on the Bruins for having him do that. Good on him wanting to do that and doing it. And I thought actually he was even better in that setting as far as answering some philosophical questions, some, ways he wants to handle things, some things approaching the team where I thought he came off as his own guy, as somebody that's going to have a strong opinion about everything, as somebody that really has a set idea of what he wants to do coming in here. And I think, I was impressed by the first day with him. And I think there's also an admission that, there's going to be some work there, and that I think they're going to have to figure some things out. They're going to have to add some pieces. It sounds to me like unless they really get a lot of players coming in here, there's going to be a trapping element to what their Bruins are going to do. That 1-3-1 that the LA Kings have utilized quite a bit. Sounds like that may be something that we're going to see in the future for the Bruins, for better or for worse, but it'd probably be for the better if the roster still needs some improvements when the season starts, and they still feel like they're not quite exactly where they want to be. But what did you think of the opening presser? I liked that also he embraced being a player and talked about it a couple times, being a Boston Bruin, but also made it very clear that, he was going to take an NHL job, whether it was Boston or somewhere else, if it made sense to him and it was the right job. And this wasn't about him being a former player and coming back to where he played. He just thought it was a good situation and the right fit for him. But he also brings some knowledge of the way they built the culture 20 years ago, while also admitting freely in that press conference that, Zdeno Chara, Patrice Bergeron, those kinds of guys aren't, Marco Sturm, those guys aren't here anymore, and they need to rebuild it and reestablish it with the group that's there now moving forward.
Yeah, and so I think that what you have is a strong collaboration with management, which is what the Bruins wanted, which is not the same thing as saying a puppet. It's
Right.
important that the coach brings his own energy, his own voice, and his ideas to challenge management in a collaboration of ideas that would help them move their game forward. And this is what Marco Sturm's experience and his variety of experience, significant experience with a growing team like what the Kings have done these last few years and coming back to NHL relevance, playoff relevance, and having experience with developing players like Quinton Byfield. So for him to be the guy who's going to tap into Casey Middlestat and try to bring out a better version of him, the way the Bruins have been able to do with guys like Pavel Zacha and Morgan Geekie and Hampus Lindholm. They feel like they got the right guy here. And when you think 1-3-1, I think of the Tampa Bay Lightning back in 2010. But I
Guy
think
Boucher.
but I think modern 1-3-1 is a little more like what the Bruins did with neutral zone trapping under Claude Julien. They still sprung off like a golf course sprinkler. And this is really John McLean's thing from the Florida Panthers in '96. Going to the Stanley Cup final so early in that franchise history. He was ahead of his time to take a neutral zone trap, but spring off aggressive puck hunting from it, kind of like a golf course sprinkler. And the Bruins kind of played this way in 2011. They did it more swirling peels, but that's how they took away options and skated their forechecking pass. And it'll be interesting to see what Sturman employs. But he also made a point that when asked about the Florida Panthers, that you play that way if you got the players. And we're
Right.
not there. We're not them.
Right.
And so we can't pretend to go all out the way they do and expect that the chain's not going to break somewhere. I remember Scott Gordon coaching the Providence Bruins. He wanted the same thing as what Maurice does, which takes the guesswork out of it. You assume that the guy's going to go, that guy doesn't like hunt the puck and say, well, do I have support back here? No, it's on your teammate to decide that you needed that support. So he's already there. You don't have to lose that precious half second wondering if you got support over your shoulder to make a risky play. No, you go after it. And if the chain breaks, it's not on you. That's how they want to play. That's how they play. The Bruins will need personnel to get there. It's going to be a developing team. It's going to take time. But and I agree. I take Donnie very sincerely when he said it was no one thing. It was just it was everything that he realized this is our guy.
This is Marco Sturm from the press conference. Don Sweeney was talking about the culture we built here 20 years ago. It's still here. That the style and the winning mindset we had, I think that's something that just gets me really excited, and that's what I believe in. I also think working with especially Don Sweeney, Cam Neely on a regular basis, because I know they're going to push me hard. We want to lead by example every day. So for that, I'm really looking forward to pushing the push, but also to the team, also taking the team to the next level as well. All right. So to wrap things up, I think lastly, we need everyone together here, right? That means it's going to be up to me and my coaching staff. It's going to be up to my players. It's going to be up to management and also up to the fans of the Boston Bruins. And again, I got such good memories here, and I know the fans will definitely, as soon as they feel it, that's something, that there's something good here happening here, they will support you. I know that kind of goes the other way too, but I don't want to talk about that. I want to look forward, and that's our goal. That's going to be our goal. I know we've got work to do. We have lots of work to do. I know that. I'm not going to fix it overnight, but we're going to prepare starting day one at training camp, because I believe in teams winning championships, not one coach, not one player. I think, and I said this before, there's a couple things here. I think it's very valuable that Marco Sturm understands the terrain here, as far as what the fans expect, as far as what the media expects, as far as what management expects, how the team is expected to play, what they like and don't like, what the expectations are. I think knowing all that stuff going in is going to help him tremendously. He already understands the lay of the land and gets it. And the other thing, just from the answers he gave and from the Felger and Maz thing, he just tells you what he thinks. He's telling you the truth. There's not a lot of bullcrap with him. You know what I mean? Like, he is speaking from the heart, and he's also speaking to what he's found to be true, and he's not blowing smoke. He's not going to give you a pile of crap and expect you to believe it. One of the problems I had with Jim Montgomery when he was coach here is he wouldn't be telling you everything that was going on and what he was really thinking. Part of it, I think, was because he didn't want to be too hard on the players, and he kind of had to come in with a different approach than Bruce Cassidy. Part of it was just some hockey coaches are a little more secretive about stuff, and aren't gonna want to tell you the sky is blue when everybody knows the sky is blue sometimes. I don't see that with Marco Sturm. Maybe it's because he's new, but knowing him, I don't think that's what it is. I think that's just who he is as a person. And I think people are going to appreciate that. I think the media is going to appreciate that. I think fans are going to appreciate that. Certainly, it's going to turn into some conversations he's going to have with players and management. And there's going to be times where, maybe it's not going to be the easy road, telling the truth or saying like it is, correctly assessing things or giving you his honest opinion instead of telling you what is going to be the path of least resistance. But I liked that element and that quality. And I think it's something that we haven't had the last few years. And I think Boston Bruins fans are intelligent, and they're going to know if they're not getting the straight truth from somebody, or if they're not getting the honest opinion of what they're seeing on the ice. And I just don't think that kind of accountability was there enough the last couple of years, where everybody was talking about what was actually happening on the ice instead of giving this rosy, forced positive take on things, and trying to shy away from the hard truth sometimes of what was going on the ice. And I don't think Marco Sturm's going to shy away from that. And I think that's something that kind of accountability is something that everybody on that team and in that roster really needed and needs.
Well, I mean, the emperor already has no clothes, so Sturm is really, he can't take the Pete Carroll road here. Everybody already
No.
saw the carcass. People saw everything go wrong as possible. He wants to start off on a positive trend, and it's a new season. So I still remember Pat Burns reacting to a reporter's question after an early season game in his first year coaching the Bruins, which was the fall of 1997. They were coming off the worst season of my career covering the Bruins, and probably the worst season of my lifetime as a Bruins fan growing up. Uh, they were last of all the 2016 NHL, and the next fall, they get 11 new players, and they got Pat Burns, and they go in there and play a hell of a game and lose to the Detroit Red Wings, who are the Stanley Cup champions. Who would
Yeah.
repeat? And
Yep.
and he starts hearing about 1990, hearing about last year when they lost the game, and he was like, he exploded. He was like, I'm not going to let you guys crap on Jim Carrey and crap on the Boston Bruins. They just played their hearts out. He was great at reading the room and knowing what the players need to hear him say to
Yeah.
us. He was
Yep.
great at that. And he would go the other way too. The next year he did, famously.
Yep.
And so, the late great Pat Burns kind of wrote the book on coaching the team through the media as an arm of building them up or tearing them down, whatever he thought they needed to have in that moment. Marco is just right now. It's like, hey, this is me. This is my approach. This is what I'm thinking. I think it's quite obvious the way he kind of held back from getting dragged into talking specifically about some things, whether it be his system or his opinion on players. He really kind of like, yeah, I'm not going there yet. I think it's
Yep.
because he wants time on the job. He doesn't want to say
Yep.
things that he's going to be surprised he said, 3 weeks into camp.
Well, you
So-
want to form your own. You want to form your own educated opinion too, right? You're not going to spout all these opinions about players that you've only seen from the opposing bench, and maybe some of them you haven't even seen for a few years because he was down in the AHL. So, like, I think that's smart. I think that he shouldn't do that. He shouldn't really have super strong opinions on those guys and pointed critiques of them until he like has spent some time with them and sees how they work every day and sees how they respond to certain situations and things like that. And the obviously he's got some past history with some of the players, and he's talking about Lindholm, knowing him from the Western Conference when he was coaching the Kings, and Lindholm was with the Flames, and there's a couple players like that he was talking about. But I just think the bottom line is, like, I think in order to be successful in Boston as a coach, manager, whatever, you have to be honest. Like, you can't try to snow fans in the media, and you can't try to, have it be like happy talk when, people can see what's going on. You know what I mean? You can
get away with it if you win every game.
Yeah.
Like Bill Belichick did for a long time.
Yeah. But, there's certain things you just can't do because it's not Hooterville here, and fans aren't going to buy it. And especially if things aren't going well.
No,
and Marco gets that and understands that. And I think I really appreciated that about him. And to your point about the systems, like, he doesn't know the roster's going to be like.
Right.
I really like that he's talking about gearing his systems or gearing what they're going to do according to the personnel that he has, which is what every good coach should do. That's what any good coach should do, is evaluate the roster, see what they have for personnel, and then you're going to tweak and adjust your systems based on who you have as players.
Right.
Obviously, you'd love to have a great team where you could play like the Florida Panthers, but if you don't and you assess that correctly, you're going to change what you're doing a little bit to try to have the most success you can.
Everyone wanted to copycat the 95 Jacques Lemaire Devils and run that moving boat, that 1-2-2 forecheck, and just close off teams, side to side with their pointed forecheck. It wasn't an especially fast forecheck, but it wasn't a trap really. It was more of an old-fashioned 1950s Montreal Canadiens 1-2-2 that took away the ice and the option. But in Lemaire's case, he'd throw the whole boat to one side of the ice and challenge the opponent to break out the puck by throwing it across to the weak side with speed and somehow get the puck through. And everybody tried to copy that in the late 90s, but if you don't have the team to do it, and there's a learning curve to how you play it, then what you look like is a school of fish chasing something you're not going to catch. And that's how the Bruins looked to me when Pat Burns was trying to get them to play that game, which was his foundational strategy as well. And but I think that, Sturm did say, I do have a specific idea of how I want this team to play, what I want them to do. I wish there was more elaboration of that. I guess what I need to do is watch some Ontario Reign games.
He mentioned the neutral zone trap later on in reference to that, and I think that's what he was talking about. Because that's the system he comes from with the LA Kings. I firmly believe that they're going to end up doing that based on the personnel that they have, and that's something we're going to see out of them. It's going to be different than what we've seen the last couple of years. But like the biggest thing that I took out of him talking about all that stuff, Mick, was just like making sure the defensive structure is sound, and that's what the team has always been built on, going back to when he played for them for the last 20 years, and making sure that that's a bedrock of what they're doing. Again, I think they got away from that under Jim Montgomery. I think they became much more of a risk-taking, trying to make plays offensively. Offense at the cost of some of the defensive principles that they'd had for a long time. Some of it was personnel, and I think some of it was philosophy and the way that he coached. And, everybody talks about him being this great coach, and I think he is a good hockey coach, but like, I think there are things about him that I did not think were a good fit with the Bruins. And that was one of them, especially as, like I talked about, the personnel started to change and you couldn't really play the style he wanted to play. And you had to adjust and become more, more of a defensive team that's holding teams down, a little more conservative. And he never changed that. And if you're a good hockey coach, you have to change according to like the players that you have and the pieces that you have. Before we get to a little bit more, Mick, I do want to take a break real quick and talk about PrizePicks, our good friends at PrizePicks. It's the largest daily fantasy sports platform in North America and the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Join over 10 million users and get started today. Instead of battling thousands of other players that could be pros or sharks, you simply pick more or less than on 2 to 6 player stat projections and you watch the winnings roll right in. It's fun and it's pretty simple. On PrizePicks, you can mix and match player projections from different sports, combine your favorite hockey players with players from baseball, basketball, esports, and so much more. Here's some picks for this week. Brad Marchand, more than 0.5 goals. Aaron Ekblad, more than 4 hits. Connor McDavid, more than 23 minutes on ice. I think you can take that to the bank in a Game 4 type situation. You can now win up to 1,000 times your money on PrizePicks. PrizePicks now offers Venmo, MasterCard, and Apple Pay for quick and easy deposits into your account this sports season. Download the PrizePicks app today and use the code CLNS and get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's code CLNS on PrizePicks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. PrizePicks, run your game. Mick, assistant coaches confirmed. Jay Leach, Chris Kelly, and goalie guru Bob Asenza all coming back and returning as part of the staff for Marco Sturm. There will be one assistant coaching job vacancy there. And it sounded as to what Sturm and Sweeney were saying yesterday, that that's going to be a power play guy that they're going to bring in primarily. The power play had not been great for Marco Sturm's teams on Ontario in the AHL. The power play was obviously struggling badly last year for the Bruins. And it was interesting to hear, Sweeney talk about 4 of the 5 pieces coming back for the power play and some dismay and disappointment at the way that they performed. Your thoughts on the coaches all coming back and bringing in who you think might be a good fit, somebody to bring in on the power play, or if you think that's the right move to make here?
Well, he did say that it could be young, it could be old, it could be this, it could be that, but it will definitely include experience with the power play. So, one of the things that just hit me, and I know it's kind of too soon in the process, but Torrey Krug. And so a guy whose career is ending, I think would be an amazing fit in a case like this, as a young, as opposed to an old, if they wanted to go that route. And he's allowed to not, I don't know if his contract up. And so that's why the announcement, or I can't remember where he's at with that whole thing. But guys these days,
I'd have to look into that. That's not a name I'd even thought of
before they can announce. So, but I mean, I would really consider that if I were the Bruins. That's one thing. As far as the guys coming back goes, I'm thrilled that Jay Leach saw fit to stick around, and that this is better for him than jumping ship as Joe Sacco did. And Joe Sacco was the right time. It was the right move. And God bless the man. As the caretaker of the Bruins through last year through the thick and thin of trying to. He improved the situation. They hit an offensive wall. They couldn't score. The leak started springing again. The injuries then mounted, and then there was the
Yep.
big tank, and that poor guy stood over it. I'm so happy for him that he's landed in a place where it's going to be very solid alongside Mike Sullivan in New York. So God bless Joe Sacco, number one. Number
Yep.
two, Chris
I
Kelly,
will say,
quality.
Mick, let me interject real quick. I will say that I knew it was pretty much a fait accompli that Jay Leach was coming back when he was at the Providence Bruins playoffs with the Bruins management, front office types like Don Sweeney, Jamie Langenbrunner, all those guys, Adam McQuaid. When he was a part of that group that was there watching the P Bruins players, I took it as an automatic that he was definitely coming back, and he's part of sort of their, collaborative brain trusts that are making decisions here for the Bruins. So, like, you're right. Definitely a good move on his part. And I think he's still, like, viewed as the heir apparent there, somewhere down the line, that he's going to be a really good NHL head coach, and that this is just more training for him and sort of, more getting ready to be that guy at some point if they might need him down the line.
I suppose. I mean, to me, I took it as his being in Providence for those playoffs as being indications that he was on their short list of candidates as head coach.
Well, that
So,
too. I mean, he's one of the
and
finalists, but
you
like
know,
that being like what I'm saying is like he was going to be a part of the the picture here. Either way, he was going to be
well,
back.
I mean, maybe I don't know if that I didn't take that part. That he would return as an assistant if he didn't get the job. But the fact that the process lasted this long, other staffs are reaching completion. And so I think that he was kind of in a situation where he had to decide ahead of time that in fact is the case, that I'm going to stick around here. They want me here, whether I'm the head coach or not.
Yep.
At some point, that won't be the case for him. He'll need to decide, as Joe Sacco just did, that his time here, second time around. I mean, lest he become Peter Laviolette, who has now been passed over by the Bruins on 4 separate occasions. So it's adding to the legend of his storied career behind the benches
Yes.
in the NHL. I just wanted to augment, too, what you said before about Jim Montgomery, that one of the things that his system of a lot of puck touches coming out of the zone could really frustrate an opponent, especially in the early days of him coaching here in that magical 22-23 season. However, the Bruins gave up a lot of grade A's, breakaways, odd mans,
Yep.
and it
Yep.
was the extraordinary goaltending that masked a lot of that issue with them. That
Yep.
was really an awful big part of why they had such a great season
Yep.
that year and why they were so good the following year.
I agree. All right, let's take another break real quick. For those of you listening to the episode of the Pucks with Haggs podcast, we ask you to subscribe to the podcast, like, and leave a review. And for those watching the show on CLNS and enjoying all this hockey talk, go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe to the Bruins Rinkside YouTube channel, where you can find our show and a lot of other great Bruins content with fellow Bruins talkers like Conor Ryan and Evan Marinofski. There's also the CLNS Media Network and Patriots Press Pass YouTube channels as well. Also, please make sure to turn on your notifications so you know the instant a new Pucks with Haggs podcast video drops on the interwebs. All right.
I sat next to Evan yesterday.
Oh,
I could
there
feel
you go.
the magic rubbing off on me.
It was good to see Evan up at the Bruins front office tower room there.
Ironically,
the
Celtics are on the floor below. You'd think they would need
really?
higher ceilings.
Yeah, I also tried valiantly. They had a nice setup in the conference room where they had a Bruins cake welcoming Marco Sturm to the Boston Bruins, and they had a bunch of chocolate and vanilla cupcakes that were black and gold and had Bruins stuff on them.
I couldn't get around the black frosting, so I was good yesterday. I saw you sneak away some for your kids. Were they a hit?
I tried valiantly to sneak away a couple for my kids. I got into there were 2 different elevators you had to go through to get up to that. That's right.
You have to switch at the 8th.
I made it all the way to the bottom of the second elevator and was getting off when one of the cupcakes did like a flip off the plate, and I caught it. Got some frosting on me, And then we walk out the door, and I'm with Adam Pellerin and a few other people, and we walk
No.
out the elevated doors, and it's friggin' pouring outside. And I just threw them in the trash and was like, "Sorry, kids, you're not getting these cupcakes. This is the forces of nature are against you guys, against this
Too
happening."
bad
So I
somebody didn't have
tried.
a little selfie film of that, a little social
I
media
know,
film of the cell phone
I know.
film of you throwing it away. They'd say, "Okay, now we
Oh,
know
I
what
tried.
Haggerty thinks of
I just said
Sturm."
that. I just said sorry, kids, and I dumped them both in the trash. I was like, I tried valiantly to make it happen because I knew you guys would have loved some Bruins cupcakes, but it was
Couldn't
not
quite
meant to
make
be
it.
yesterday. All right. So the Marco Sturm, another thought from him. I think we have good goaltending. I think when everyone stays healthy, we have a really good decor. I think we hopefully want to add a few pieces up front. But overall, I do like our core. But having said that, I think we just probably need a little bit more. And I think in our DNA, in the Bruins' DNA, playing good defensively, it's not going to change. But we have to find a way to be more productive offensively. I think that's going to be our goal and not a sure challenge, but that's what we're going to address from day one. I mean, I think that's right on. Like, I think the DNA of the team, the core of the team, like a couple of those pieces are pretty good. Um, I do think that they need to add a couple of forwards that can put the puck in the net for sure. Hopefully, some players with speed, but also playmaking and goal scoring ability. And I think they could use definitely like a player with some size that or a player with some tenacity that can really, replace some of what they're now going to miss with Brad Marchand dragging them into the fight. Like, I'm not sure they have that kind of player right now to the degree that they had when they had him. Somebody that plays with that level of passion and feistiness. But it's clear to everybody that they're going to need to add up front. What's interesting to me is like, who is it going to be and how are they going to go about doing it? Whether it's going to be trades, whether it's going to be free agency. The more I see of like Sam Bennett in the Stanley Cup final and the way he can change things with the way that he plays and just the way he plays, the more I wonder if that's somebody that the Bruins would even think about throwing an obscene amount of money at, like overpaying him basically to come to Boston because they need that kind of player. Or they need, maybe not him. Because the one thing you worry about with him, right, is that he's a playoff performer, but regular season, if he doesn't have that great cast around him, he's not going to be quite as effective, and he's not going to look like a player that should be commanding the type of money that the Bruins would pay him in free agency, and it's going to come back to bite them in some way, or the optics won't be great. But like, I would just wonder if that's a kind of guy that the Bruins, should think about overpaying.
Those things are all discussed. I think they have to talk about this stuff and decide, hey, is this a route we should go? Or do we need to identify a next generation Sam Bennett? I know that he's not that old, but there's a lot of mileage there, hard miles over these last few years. And one one of my readers proposed to me that Martian come back and bring Bennett with him. And and so I don't see the Bruins wanting to run it back. I think those I think Marchand, whoever signs him, is going to overpay and then get the guy that the Bruins had for most of the last 2 years, which is the one who had double labrum and then assorted other surgeries and is really fighting to recapture his prime form. And for the most part, having to live with something below that, we are seeing a version of him in these playoffs that is just incredible and something that we hadn't seen around here for a few years. Uh, I think for Bennett to be more mental to leave the Panthers and the chemistry of what they've done and expect that you're going to just bottle that explosion and just set it free and he's going to infect the rest of your team and turn you into the Florida Panthers. I think those are
Yep.
very far-fetched ideas that they are going to
Yep.
work out that way. A lot of teams have done stuff like this. They've tried to didn't the Maple Leafs sign a winger that was a real hard-nosed player on another team and he came to them and it was just did not happen at all. I can't remember who it was, but I think I'm going back like 10 years. But in any
Yeah.
case, I think there's a there's a lot of ideas, and I get it. And boy, do you want that effect on your team? A powder keg, absolutely. But I think they're going to find it in a younger body under other names, develop it, work it up. There's going to be next generation players who are going to do these kinds of things for their teams. So you got to try to figure out who those people are and work and let that emerge on your team. Bennett's career did not come to fruition until his late 20s. It really kind of,
Yep.
he was a guy who was made fun of because he couldn't do a pull up in the combine, and
Yep.
then his career didn't really find its traction and its identity until much later. And happens a lot in hockey. Hockey's a lot like baseball. It takes years for most guys to become what they're going to be at their height of their powers in the NHL as an impact on a team trying to win. And
Yep.
and uh, and Bennett is that right now for Florida. How much longer he can be that, I'm not sure. Take him out of that context and pluck him down in somebody else's Hooterville. I'm not so sure it translates. It may. I might feel foolish about this, and next fall, when he's playing for Seattle and they're going crazy and 17-3 or something. I mean,
Yeah.
who the heck knows? It's hard, but I do think the Bruins are at a point where they really can't take risks going forward at the center position. You can't. Your heaviest investments, you have to believe 100% in them, and if they don't feel like there's a player in UFA that they can feel that way about sinking that kind of dime into and allocating that kind of position and influence on their team to, then better for them to do this by committee and try to figure it out going later, in my opinion. I just feel like that's tough. That's a tough ask for all that hockey he's played, that hard hockey he's played over these last few years.
Yeah.
That's asking a lot. And
Well, it's kind of an eternal mystery, Mick, with players like him, whether you're going to get the same player taking him out of the, championship setting that he's in right now. You know what I mean? Like if you're going to get a guy that can replicate what he's doing now when you change everybody that's around him and you change the role that he's kind of playing and the expectations and all that stuff. And that with him, that probably more than a lot of these other players in free agency, that question is there because he's such a unique player with what he does and how he plays, and the style of play that they have in Florida and the swagger and the attitude that they play with. If you don't have all these other guys backing him up and in that same pack with him, if he's going to be able to do the same kind of stuff, I
one
do
of whom
like
is
though.
Barkov.
Yes, of course. I do like though that and you can see why he plays the way he does now. As a youth player, he played with Connor McDavid and was always in his shadow growing up for the time they were teenagers. And then you talk about the pull up thing with the I was at that combine in Buffalo. I remember that being the talk of the combine, that there was a kid that was going to go in the first round that couldn't do a pull up, and that's all people were talking about. So that's certainly he's had major chips on his shoulder, I think, at points that have motivated him and turned into what he is now. And so I think that motor is always going to be running for him to a degree. That's just the kind of player that he is. It's just a matter of whether you put that much value in it as far as what you would offer him in free agency. And there's also people that think, Florida's got something so special going on that nobody's going to leave there. And it seems like a lot of the talk, and maybe this is just because it's our Toronto media generating it, is that some of those players might only leave Florida to go to the Maple Leafs, which would also be interesting. But I do think that
It never
they
stops.
hit the nail on the head, like everybody involved. And I'm glad to hear the Bruins continue to say they need a couple of pieces up front. They seem to understand that they are a couple forwards short of having an NHL team that can actually generate offense, produce offense, and be competent, top half of the league offensively. After the last couple of years, seemingly always being one top six forward short, it feels like they understand now that they need a couple of top six guys, or guys that can play top six, in order to have the requisite talent level to be successful in the NHL.
Yeah, I mean, if you assume, and this is theoretical, new coach, that Morgan Geekie is going to skate in the Mike Knuble position with Elias Lindholm and David Pasternak, And then Pavel Zacha is going to be your second line, either center, which Sturm allowed as a possibility, or does he slide to left wing and Middlestat is your center? Then what happens in the right wing? You got to get a player there. So is Dalton Bancroft that good? They signed him, Cornell, undrafted, late blooming. He's really kind of getting to his mid-20s. So I don't think the Bruins signed this guy if they don't think he can play in the NHL. So I think he's going to get a camp look, serious one.
I would guess that Patra and Minton are going to get serious camp looks as well, based on them getting name checked by Don Sweeney at the press conference yesterday.
Absolutely, I think that they're leaning on Minton as an NHLer for next season because of the kind of things he already does well. He's very Bergeron-esque defensively and as a forechecker. He has no finishing ability yet, but would he be a good support guy for a guy like Matt Patra so Minton could play wing the way Bergeron did early in his career before assuming a center position? I don't think the way the Bruins have taken Patra and said, you need to play center and we're going to put you in Providence so you can play a lot of center and then until you're ready to play center here. I think Minton is different. I think they'll move him around. I think he's better on the walls. I think he's better defensively. He holds up in battle. The guy's got huge quads. He's going to be an NHL player very soon. I think that he and Patra as 2/3 of a third line make a lot of sense right now. What do you do with that right winger over there? So to me, it's two right-handed shots that for sure, even if you like what you have and you just want to complete it, you need two right-handed shots. There's Bancroft, one of them. And what are you doing in UFA? And you're doing something else that could really kind of do what Don Sweeney loves to do, which is put a hurdle in front of prospects and say, if you want to make this team, if you want to make the leap, you got to beat out this guy. So I think that there's going to be more of that, one of those kinds of signings, but also they need a top six impact kind of a signing. And if Bancroft can bang the door down, good for him and good for the Bruins for being able to be the team that plucked him as a free agent. Undrafted free agent out of Cornell after, really kind of completing his career on a high note.
Yep. And there's going to have to be more than like the young guys that we're mentioning too, obviously, like Brock Besser in free agency, something like that. When just pulling a name out, but a couple guys in free agency, some RFAs out there. The big Russian kid from Columbus that's a restricted free agent that torched them last year is one that I thought was intriguing. But like they're going to, whether it's trades or free agency, they're going to have to bring in some like established NHL guys that can put the puck in the net to add to what they already have. And it's going to be interesting to see how they do that. Mick, thank you very much for joining us. Let's also thank our friends at PrizePicks. Download the PrizePicks app today and use the code CLNS and get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's code CLNS on PrizePicks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. PrizePicks, run your game. For those of you listening to this episode of the Pucks with Haggs podcast, we also ask that you subscribe to the podcast, like, and leave a review. And for those watching the show on CLNS and enjoying all this hockey talk, go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe to the Bruins Ringside YouTube channel, where you can find our show and a lot of our great Bruins content with fellow Bruins talkers like Conor Ryan and Evan Marinofski. There's also the CLNS Media Network and Patriots Press Pass YouTube channels as well. And also please make sure to turn on your notifications so you know the instant a new Pucks with Haggs podcast video drops on the interwebs. Mick, thank you very much for joining us.
Pleasure.
Everybody else out there, thank you for listening. We'll see you at the rink.